I'm no dictator or something, but at least use them as like cannon fodder.
Today we're talking about an ancient legend.
Ooh, like ancient legends.
Okay.
How long ago, though? Are we just talking like 30 years?
2000.
2,000 years.
2,000 years.
So we're talking about Jeebus.
Before Jeebus.
Oh, fuck. No, he would have been 23 years old. What are you talking about?
Before 2000. Over 2000.
Oh, shit. Okay, so
like
pretty...
2,090 years ago.
Damn, pretty ancient. As old as your mom. Oh. Okay, cut that.
You got me. So, we're talking about an ancient legend who led a Roman slave revolt.
Ooh, I like it.
And used expert guerrilla warfare tactics.
Expert. Okay.
Expert to wage a 3-year war against the Roman legions.
What a G, dude.
Yeah. This is the story of Spartacus.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
Do you know him?
I know of him in depth. No,
Okay.
I don't know the full story.
Same. So again, this story is over 2,000 years old, and you really cannot be a more legendary figure in history to have your story known 2,000 years later.
Right, that's pretty solid, man.
Considering you were a slave.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's really crazy to think about.
Really,
but,
the OG started from the bottom, now we're here.
For real. Okay. Because this story is over 2,000 years old, the details of Spartacus's early life are just not known at all, really.
That's fair.
What we do know is that he was most likely a native of Thrace, which is in present-day southern Bulgaria or northern Greece.
Okay.
So he's kind of Greek-looking, southern European.
I gotcha.
It is likely that Spartacus at one point served as a soldier in the Roman army. So when you look up ancient history like this, it's typically from Roman historians from like 300 years later or 100 years later. They write down what their history is. So you'll have one ancient Roman historian saying one thing and another one saying another thing, and they might be slightly contradictory, but they usually overlap in ways. And one way is that he was probably from Thrace and that he probably had some experience in the military.
Okay. But, I'm sorry, at the start of this you said he was a slave, though, right?
Correct.
Okay, so just a slave drafted into the military?
Nope.
Oh,
so he
okay.
started as a soldier in the military, but for some reason lost to history, he became a prisoner.
He fucked up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the historians said he led bandit raids. I don't know. We really don't know what happened.
Well, you gotta get your extracurriculars in, man.
So he'd become a prisoner and was sold as a gladiator.
Okay.
So Florus, an ancient Roman historian, wrote of his origin, quote, "A Thracian mercenary had become a Roman soldier that had deserted and become enslaved, and afterward, from consideration of his strength, had become a gladiator."
Damn. Alright.
Now, it's really important to note that the condition of gladiators' lives are probably not exactly what you think of. You think of, like, cheering crowds and, like, Cletus, Cletus, as he, like, chops a dude in half.
Sure.
It's not really like that. It sort of is. Yes, they could grow to be famous. They could grow to have fans. But they were slaves.
It was few and far between those, like the bigger ones. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And sometimes some, like, lowborn Romans, not really slaves, but lowborn, would go and try and reach fame in the gladiatorial arenas. But typically, they're slaves, they're segregated, they're beaten, they're trained in extreme situations. They are second-class citizens. They are segregated even in death. So when you die, you're not allowed to be buried in a Roman cemetery. You're buried somewhere else.
Jeez.
So yes, very socially marginalized. And yeah, a lot of people think gladiators are just like cool dudes who had good lives. Nah, they were slaves through and through. And
rough life.
It was horrible to be a gladiator. But back to the story. Spartacus was a heavyweight gladiator.
Oh, big boy.
Yeah, and yes, they did have like a weight class system.
That makes it a little bit more fair, right?
And so he carried a long rectangular shield.
Okay.
Like one of those long shields in Dark Souls, like the wooden one you might think of.
Big old like square shield or something like that. All right.
And a typical straight sword, Roman sword. However, he actually escaped during his gladiatorial schooling, so maybe he didn't even get a chance. I don't know.
Okay.
But Spartacus and about 70 other gladiators plotted their escape, and this is 73 BC, so 73 years before Christ was born. And by the way, I just thought it seems a little brave or arrogant for the Romans to teach their slaves how to be the best warriors.
is an interesting tactic, right? It's not like they have fucking guns or something where they can just kind of gun them down if they get loose. No, you're training people who fucking want you dead.
Yeah.
How to kill people.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, a little iffy there, but, teach their own.
Yeah. A little sus, but... Anyways, Spartacus and the 70 other gladiators snuck into the kitchen of their compound. When you weren't training, they took your swords away. So they snuck into the kitchen, grabbed the utensils, and went fucking ham.
No pun intended.
So they killed a bunch of the fucking overseers, and they fought their way free from their captives, and then they seized several wagons full of gladiatorial weapons and armor.
I just imagine they're fighting their way through the kitchen, like some dude comes down with a sword, and yet he fucking catches it with a fork, like, not today, bitch, stabs him to death with a spoon.
Exactly.
Like, that's pretty fucking metal.
It is metal, dude. These guys did not fuck around. So after they had escaped, Roman soldiers had descended onto them. Not a lot. I'll get into the reason why, but like a legion or two, like a good amount of soldiers.
Just a casual legion or so, right?
But the gladiators killed them and started raiding the region, taking in all of the slaves in the region into their camp and increasing their numbers. And then that's when they escaped to Mount Vesuvius. So they all escaped to Mount Vesuvius and waited out what was coming. Once free, though, the escaped gladiators chose Spartacus and 2 Gallic slaves. Gallic is like the region of like Eastern France and Western Germany back then. So it's a couple of other slaves to be leaders, along with Spartacus, Crixus and Onomus. So Crixus, Onomus, and Spartacus. They're leading this band of escaped slaves. And at this time, Rome was actually really busy putting down another revolt, because they had a big empire and people like to revolt against empires.
Makes sense.
So people in present-day Spain, which was called Hispania back then, were revolting, and so much of the Roman army was dealing with them in Spain. And this happened in, like, middle of Italy.
Gotcha.
So when this first happened, they thought, we're not going to stop this, putting down this other rebellion, so we're just going to send in, like, the, sort of like the National Guard at the time. They weren't, like, full-on armies to put down the slaves. And so they sent their militia, who was commanded by Gaius Glaber, who quickly besieged Spartacus in his camp on top of Mount Vesuvius. So they're stuck on top of this mountain with legions all around them.
Gotcha. So they're just surrounded, no real escape. Okay.
Well, actually, it's more like one side of the mountain you could climb up, the other side was kind of a sheer drop.
So still, no real escape.
No real
for these
escape.
guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
And his plan was to just besiege them on the mountain and starve them out. They're just like, you can't come down, we're right here where you can come down. You're going to sit up there or you're going to come surrender. Eventually they're going to starve.
This was the Legion's plan.
Yes.
Okay.
However, Spartacus had other plans.
I like other plans.
He was having none of this shit. He used ropes made from vines and had his men rappel down the steep side of the mountain on the other side. And attacked the unfortified Roman camp from behind.
Dude, what a G.
Yeah, dude.
Holy.
Killing almost all of the militia in one sweep maneuver.
Wow. That's impressive.
Oh, yeah. And the rebels under Spartacus, Crixus, and Onomanus then soundly defeated another round of Roman legions, nearly capturing the commander and killing the lieutenants and seizing all of the military equipment. So this is 3 times they've destroyed what the Romans have sent at them, like, soundly. Yeah.
That's impressive. That's a feat.
So once they had won not one, but like 2 official battles after their escape, more and more slaves started escaping and going into Spartacus's forces. As did some of the herdsmen and shepherds, so not even slaves, just dudes who were like, yeah, fuck these guys, I'm gonna join you.
I mean, fuck, I would too.
Swelling their army to 70,000.
Jeez, that's huge. Dude, that's bigger than the town that we're in.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's huge. At its height, Spartacus's army included many different peoples, including Celts, Gauls, and others. Due to a recent civil war in the heart of Rome, some of Spartacus's ranks were legion veterans from the losing side of that civil war, who had been put into slavery and all that, so they were like, now's our chance. So he had real soldiers, too.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And of the slaves that joined Spartacus's camp, most of them were from the countryside. Most of them were the farming slaves. At this time, because there had been previous slave revolts in cities, Rome, like the Roman society, had started treating urban slaves a little better.
It would make sense if, now you have another army you have to fight against.
Yeah.
Because you fucking treated them like shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was mostly filled up with rural slaves who escaped. That's just a side note, but... So where the fuck, like, Spartacus came from is, like, incredibly interesting to think about, because he wasn't someone who was noted of before, but yet he seemed to have this military mind that just outsmarted these Roman legions.
Yeah.
So it's like, was he a commander at some point of something, or was he just incredibly talented at outmaneuvering people? We will never know.
Well, you did say that he was previously in the military before he became a slave.
Mm-hmm.
So I just assume at some point he learned some type of guerrilla warfare from there. Right.
Yeah, maybe he fought against some people who used it against the Romans or something, yeah. So the rebels spent the winter training, arming, and equipping their new recruits, as well as fighting and expanding their territory. So they were really not fucking around, they were getting to business.
Yeah.
And they expanded it to include an additional 4 towns. Onominus seems to have been killed or otherwise disappeared in this time, as the army had split into 2 expanding forces, one led by Spartacus, one led by Crixus. So Onomus is gone now, and it's Crixus and Spartacus leading 2 different armies.
Okay.
Like 35,000 each. Whatever.
Gotcha.
In the spring of 72 BC, the rebels began marching north, like towards Rome. Like the capital city of Rome, right?
That's ballsy.
By now, the Roman Senate was seriously worried by the defeat of the previous commanding armies, and dispatched 2 higher-ranking legions of Roman soldiers under the command of Lucius Gellius and Cornelius Clodianus. Their Roman names are so silly. The Roman legions were initially successful, actually, so they sent these 2 new generals to go deal with it, and at first they succeeded. They defeated the 30,000 rebels commanded by Crixus near Mount Garganus.
Is there any information on what's considered defeated? Like, was it a retreat by the 30,000, or they just completely got, like, fucking wiped out?
You know, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I didn't see any information about that. Otherwise, yeah, they either fled, or I think they actually probably retreated. We'll get into more retreats, but I think they probably retreated. I don't know if Crixus died. Maybe he did, and I will have it in my notes later. I don't remember, but...
Okay.
Spartacus's army, though, was heard about the defeat, so he went next, and he soundly defeated them. Again, he defeated another round of Roman legions led by a pretty popular commander.
Pretty big, like, Roman names at the time, yeah.
And so, alarmed at the continued threat posed by the slaves, the Senate changed Marcus Licinius Crassus. They didn't change him, they charged him. The wealthiest man in Rome. They were like, look, he was the only volunteer for the position, actually. He was the only one who would volunteer to try and put this down, and so the Roman Senate was like, okay, you do it. And so Crassus was put in charge of 8 legions, numbering upwards of 40,000 trained Roman soldiers.
Wow, that's a pretty big army.
Yeah. He treated these soldiers with harsh discipline. Apparently this was a thing. You're ready for this. Reviving the punishment of decimation, in which 1/10 of his men were slain to make them more afraid of him than their enemy.
What?
So he murdered 4,000 of his own soldiers just right off the rip.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and you wonder why these people are rebelling, huh?
Dude, that is fucking moronic. I mean, like, I'm no dictator or something, but at least use them as, like, cannon fodder, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh god, 4,000 people, that's considerable.
Yeah, when you hear that number, 4,000...
Just murder, just right at the start. Like, he took power and he's like, alright, you, get over here. Fucking take them all down. Oh my god.
Yeah. Okay. When Spartacus and his followers, who for unclear reasons had retreated to the south of Italy, so they had also retreated, and it's not known if he lost a battle or whatnot, it's just all of a sudden they were in southern Italy.
Okay.
So we don't know why. But then they started moving northward again in early 71 BC. Crassus deployed 6 of his legions on the borders of the region and detached his legate Mummius So his, like, sub-commander, Mummius, with 2 legions to maneuver behind Spartacus. They were trying to, like, pincher them.
Okay.
Though ordered not to engage the rebels, Mummius attacked at a seemingly opportune moment, but was absolutely destroyed. So he goes to the back of them, and he's told not to attack, because what you want to do is you want to, like, attack step by step in the same... I mean, imagine, all these Roman legions have giant shields and spears. Mm-hmm. If you're surrounded, they're just going to step forward. You're not going to do much against a wall of shields and spears.
Yeah.
But instead, he was just like, we're going in, and then just got shreked.
Not smart.
Yeah. So after this, Crassus's legions were victorious in several engagements, forcing Spartacus further south through Lucania, and Crassus gained the upper hand. So at this point, Spartacus is on the back foot. By the end of 71 BC, Spartacus was encamped in Rhegium, near the Strait of Messina, so just southern Italy. According to Plutarch, which was another Roman historian, Spartacus made a bargain with Cilician pirates to transport him and some 2,000 of his men to Sicily. It's not Sicilian pirates he used Cilician, I don't know, somewhere more in the Middle East, but he bought these pirates to transport 2,000 of his men to Sicily, where he intended to incite a slave revolt and gather reinforcements in Sicily. However, he was betrayed by the pirates, who took payment and then abandoned the rebels.
Like abandoned in the ocean, or just didn't show up to take them?
Didn't show up to take them.
Oh. I mean, that's not as bad. You could have fucking took them out to sea and then just lit the ship on fire or something.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Some sources mention that there were some attempts at raft and shipbuilding by the rebels as a means to escape, but that Crassus took unspecified measures to ensure the rebels could not cross to Sicily, and their efforts were abandoned. Somehow, some way, Crassus stopped them from going to Sicily.
Okay.
Maybe he had boats along the coast or something, I don't know. Spartacus's forces then retreated towards Rhegium. Crassus's legions followed, and upon arrival built fortifications across at Rhegium. Despite harassing raids from the rebels were now under siege and cut off from their own supplies, so it's looking bad now. They're like stuck in this little town under siege.
And there currently is only 2,000 people, or the 2,000 that we're going to go try and incite more revolts. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there's more than 2,000. I don't know how many. It's probably, you would assume, less than 30,000, because he had 2 battles, and one of the battles before, he already got 30,000 men got defeated. Whether they were taken prisoner or killed or what, I don't know, but it's definitely not 70,000 anymore.
Oh, okay. I thought they were considerably less, but that clears it out. Thank you.
So at this time, the legions of Pompey returned from Hispania after that rebellion I was telling you about that Rome was putting down. They won, and so they came back and were ordered by the Senate to head south to aid Crassus. However, Crassus feared that Pompey's involvement would deprive him of credit for defeating Spartacus's army. Hearing of Pompey's involvement, Spartacus tried to make a truce with Crassus, but Crassus refused, and Spartacus and his army broke through the Roman fortifications and headed to Brundusium with Crassus's legions in pursuit. So they were sieged, they broke through, and now they're running to a different town.
Okay.
When the legions managed to catch a portion of the rebels separated from the main army, discipline among Spartacus's forces broke down as small groups independently attacked the oncoming legions. So they're all running for this one spot. The legions start catching up and start harassing the ones in the back. And instead of continuing like they were told to, they start turning around to fight, right? So now his force is being split between a fleeing force and a fighting force.
Okay.
And because of this, Spartacus turned around. He turned all of his forces around and brought his entire strength to bear on the legions in a last stand. So after this, he's like, fuck
Respect.
it. Yeah, we're not running anymore.
Yeah.
We'll attack. And the rebels were destroyed, with the vast majority of them being killed on the battlefield. The final battle that saw the assumed defeat of Spartacus in 71 BC took place on the present territory of Senertia, on the right bank of the river, in the area that includes the border with another village near the village of Quaglita in the High Sele Valley, which at that point was part of Lucania. In this area, since 1899, they're still finding swords and bones and shit like that.
Wild.
From the Roman era, yeah.
Yeah. 2,000 years ago, fuck.
Plutarch, Appian, and Florus all claim, these are all three different Roman historians, all claim that Spartacus died during the battle, but Appian also reports that his body was never found. 6,000 survivors of the revolt captured by the legions of Crassus were crucified.
Oof. That's rough.
Yeah. Lining the Appian Way from Rome to Capua.
Yikes.
It's just a road of crucified slaves.
That's quite a message, though.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the story of Spartacus. Again, there's not much. It's because it's 2,000 years old.
A lot gets lost to history and time. Yeah.
Who knows what really happened? But you know, my homie Karl Marx, he described Spartacus as one of the heroes and described him as, quote, great general, noble character, real representative of the ancient working class. And so, almost 2,000 years later, in 1919, German revolutionaries had started a Spartacist uprising. So, that's a whole different history topic. But what I'm saying is, 2,000 years later, the memory of Spartacus was still inspiring people to name their whole political movement after him.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And to this day, people still are inspired by him. And yeah, it's just insane to think about that one gladiator, a slave, over 2,000 years ago could inspire people who want to change things to this day.
Right, so much further, later. Yeah, that's wild.
So what do you think?
Incredible.
Incredible, right?
I mean, yeah, the fact that he was able to do that, everything that he pulled off, although facing huge odds, I mean, definitely a monument of a man.
Yeah. And it's really cool that, you know, in his last stand, some of his army was fighting, and so he was like, fuck it, let's go help him. He could have left.
Right, he could have definitely left.
They could have occupied them while he got away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, true fucking man of the people. Besides, you know what? Fuck this. This is going to be the last stand. Fuck these people. We're going to sit here and we're going to fight.
And it's not really known what their objectives were. Some people said they wanted to take Rome and sort of completely have a revolution, but a lot of people were saying that was probably just the Roman Senate, like, fear-mongering, like, oh, they're going to take us all over.
Yeah.
Some people said that they just wanted to raid villages. Some people said that they wanted to escape. Some people said that they wanted to, like, carve out their own space of free men. Who knows? No one really knows what the reason was, because after the first revolt, you'd think you got your freedom then. Nobody knows who you are, man. They don't have pictures of you back then. You could run away.
True.
Make your own life. But instead they decided to band together and continue fighting.
I mean, putting up with the injustice.
Yep.
Right. A lot of respect.
A lot of respect. He was a real one.
That's a crazy story of Spartacus, man.
It is, right? There's a HBO show. I think it's HBO or AMC or something about him, but I haven't watched it. I assume it's full of just ahistorical stuff. You know?
Yeah.
All right, well, that was Spartacus, another history one. I don't know. If you like the history ones, let us know. I think we're pretty iffy on them.
Personally, I like them. Yeah? I like hearing about history. I think that it's fascinating because, I mean, this stuff did happen, and it's awesome to hear the stories of the past that otherwise wouldn't be recounted. I mean, this one, a little bit different because it is such a well-known one, but still very, very interesting, at least in my opinion. But yeah, let us know what you guys think.
Let us know. All right. We'll see you next time.
Take care, guys.
Bye.